Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining this next episode of In the Nick of Time. We're going to get started in about 12 minutes now with Kat joining us from Vivsoft, and it's going to be a very interesting discussion on how small business can do business with the US government and what are the pitfalls and challenges to overcome and how to do that efficiently so we get more diversity, more options in the US government so we can compete and move at the pace of relevance against China. So stay tuned for 12 minutes. In the meantime, if you've not yet subscribed to the show, go to inthenickofTime.tv so you can get our email every week about the next episode and videos we released on the weekly basis. So stay tuned. We'll get started in about 12 minutes. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining this next episode of In the Nick of Time. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes now with Kat joining us from Vivsoft to talk about small businesses and how to do business with the US government and how to address the challenges in doing so. So stay tuned for another 5 minutes and we'll get started. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining this next episode of In the Nick of Time. This is going to be a great show today, December 13th, with Kat to talk about small businesses and how to succeed in doing business with the US government. What are the pitfalls? What has she learned in her career? And how has she managed to get where she is now? So it's going to be a very deep dive on small businesses and SBIRs and STRATFI and so on. So stay tuned if you are interested in understanding how to do that, maybe for your own company, or how to partner with others to get where companies like Vivsoft got to be now after a couple of years learning painfully how to do business with the US government. So with that, before we get started, I wanted to remind everybody that if you've not subscribed to the show, do that at inthenickoftime.tv. Also, if you want to share you with us today, put your name in the comment section below so we can highlight you on the screen. Thanks so much for so many people, as always, to for joining us. Also, if you missed it, we have the learnwithnick.com platform up now, still with our discounts, military discount and civilian and veterans with 50% off. So check that out. Free 10-day trial as well. New video every week. Live Q&A sessions, and of course the new metaverse. The last video we published, if you missed it, is about WebAssembly. So if you want to find out why WebAssembly matters, let us know, and check that video and give us feedback. We also have a new store.inthenickoftime.tv. All profits go to the Fisher House Foundation for this quarter. So if you want to buy a cool Christmas gift to your friends and family, check out some of our designs and T-shirts and goodies on the store. And like I said, all the profits go to the Fisher House Foundation. So that's a good investment. If you've not seen it, we have the metaverse now open 24/7, so people can go and learn and share and communicate with many people from so far above 12 nations, NATO partners as well, telcos, banks, healthcare companies, governments struggling implementing DevSecOps, digital transformation, cybersecurity, zero trust. So if you want to go check out all the content, all the videos, if you have also great content, give it to us so we can put it on the metaverse so people can check it out. So if you have a company, want to do maybe an event, maybe a virtual event, keynotes, maybe you want to announce your next release, do that on the metaverse completely free of charge. A lot of great people wandering around and trying to keep up with the pace of relevance. And so you'll find meeting rooms, you'll find different learning environments, different dedicated space for different topics like acquisition, contracting, cybersecurity, DevSecOps, and so on. So you can go there and have engagements and see all the unlimited content coming from our partners on Service Mesh and DevSecOps, Kubernetes, API security, and so on. So the next video will be on the regulation ops, otherwise known as RegOps. New name and new concept to explain what you need to do to remove the bottleneck when it comes to compliance and accreditation. And so that's the RegOps next video coming this week. So stay tuned for that as well. With that, we're going to bring our guest today. She's joining us from a conference, a DoD conference. Kathryn Logan is first now at Vivsoft, but she has spent 15 years working with 8A companies to support DoD and commercial customers. She has 24 years of experience in DoD healthcare and an extensive experience in leading complex teams, implementing programs, DoD acquisition, and business operations. And so you'll see her background is very unique. Also serving herself in the military as in Texas. So that's going to be an interesting piece of the puzzle to see how do you get to keep up and understand what's going on in technology while also enabling acquisition and particularly for her in healthcare for many years, DoD healthcare. So with that, we're going to bring Kat on. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we're good. A little bit interesting always to see you when you're always on the road, and you have I guess joined us from what is it, the DoD, whatever the name is. What's the name of the
The
conference
DOTIS,
again?
the DOTIS conference. I don't know what all the
DoD
letters stand
conference.
for, but yeah.
Yeah, I
Intel,
forgot what it stands for. There's always an acronym somewhere in DoD. I just forget what
too
it
many.
meant, but it's fun. A lot of people over there. I don't know. How is it going?
Oh, it's packed. Yep. Just was talking to some of the platform one friends, so that's always nice to see them here. But just getting started. I just got here a couple hours ago, so
Where is it located?
in San Antonio at the Henry B. Gonzalez
Ah,
Convention Center. So right in my
very
backyard.
nice.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no snow, so that's good.
Oh no,
So
probably be like 80 degrees today. So nice and warm.
nice. All right. So with that, I gave a very poor job. I did a very poor job of describing what you've done. So we're gonna give you, as always, a shot at sharing with us a little bit of your story, and then we'll do a deep dive on what you've learned doing business with DoD and as a small business, how to get where you want to be to make some money.
All right, my journey started a long, long time ago. So I joined the military, right out of high school. I spent active duty 15 years, healthcare administration, crossed over to the Guard, which was the best decision. So I'm gonna, give my shout out to the Guard. Career path is a great way to still serve your country, wear the uniform, make a difference, but also be stable for your family. That ultimately was my decision to get out of active duty. Was my last deployment, and being a single mom. But so I'm still in. I'm in my 25th year of service, which is so crazy to say. I am a medical service corps officer at the 149th Fighter Wing here in San Antonio, Texas, at Lackland, one of the best wings to be a part of. Really enjoy that. I got out of active duty and joined some 8A, the Alaskan Native Bristol Bay, doing biomedical research and healthcare, government contracting. Learned a lot coming straight out of the military, but really got a passion for small business and in 8As and supporting the government, right? And they were speaking my language, and so it was just really fun to be a part of that growth, watch the 8A process and all of the work and dedication and passion that it takes to stay on this journey and to be successful. And then I, ventured from there, and I actually got picked up. It was time for a move. It was time to shift. I felt like I'm kind of comfortable in what I'm doing right now, so I wanted to do something new and change. Get a change, right? Challenge myself. And I got an email from a friend who said Platform One was looking for support on their contracting team, and I was like, okay, well, let me check this out. And I interviewed with Cody and Victoria, and let's just say they took a chance and took a risk on this medical officer. And so I joined there on orders and had really great support. I was there for about 5 or 6 months, and then moved to the ARS team, which was really exciting. I really enjoyed my time at Platform One. I really learned a lot and continued my passion for, small business and what they're doing for the DoD, and then shifted from Platform One over to team. Doing, I just have a business, supporting the vision and just seeing the nation positive. That's how I got here.
Yeah, you just started to break up a little bit, but now it's coming back, I think. So maybe your connection at the conference. But it was fine until just now. But I think it's coming back. So can you hear me well?
Okay. Yep, I can hear you great.
Great. So obviously your background first in healthcare, and of course serving in DoD healthcare, and then you got to touch a little bit the tech aspect of things with P1. How did you end up, coping or keeping up and really tracking tech changes? And I mean, it's a massive shift, right? It's it's P1 is really at the top of the curve of technology. So I guess how did you get to really track technology, I guess?
Let me just say, I was pretty much nervous every day and every meeting I went in, but I had a great team and just the passion that they had, and they were just so committed. And I was like, okay, let me get on board with this. It was very overwhelming. I had to listen a lot, I had to research a lot, I didn't know certain words. My 31st retro, I'd only been on the job 30 days, and Cody asked me, "So, Kat, what do you feel about Kubernetes?" And I don't even know how to spell the word yet, so give me some time. And I still, it's a big learning curve, right? But the people that I was with really supported me, encouraged me, believed in me, and so I just kind of dug in. I knew that there were solutions that people needed to hear about, and so that's what I did. Tried to listen, tried to research, try to have an understanding, and that's how I made it. It was challenging. I'm gonna tell you, probably one of the hardest, biggest learning curves I've ever taken on. But the bottom line is, and what I just accepted is, tech is everywhere. Like, I have to understand this. I need to know these things. I may not be the engineer, but I do need to understand, because it will affect every single industry and every point of our lives. So it made
Yeah,
sense.
no doubt. No doubt. And you did great. And you managed to really go from, basic understanding of technology to P1 understanding of technology, which is really at the top of the curve. So that's pretty amazing. I guess, if we go back to the acquisition side of the house a little bit, when you look at, the department and you see all the struggle, people complaining about, the time it takes to put things on contract, when you reflect back and you compare both as an employee of a small business, but also as someone that's been able to serve from within too. What do you see as the biggest struggle with acquisition?
Yeah, wow. It's the culture, right? The mindset, the old way. I know it sounds like we all say it, the old way of doing business. And I think that the amount of risk, right, that the contract officers and the contract shops are able to take and are allowed to take or are willing to take, really helps. I mean, really affects how you do technology acquisitions, and just the thought process, and also to what the end user wants, what the tech people need, and the translation of that to the acquisition teams, having strong PMs that understand the tech, that can articulate that back to the PK office too, I believe, is also a struggle. And everybody's kind of trying to attack it in their own way, which I also think is a struggle. That's one thing that I was a part of at P1, and that was the enablement piece, right? Which is agile acquisitions has to go along with agile, technology and DevSecOps, and enabling organizations and teaching them ways that you can do acquisitions in a more agile format was very challenging. It took sometimes a few meetings to get the contracting officers on board with that, and doing things, shorter option periods, doing the oral presentations, doing the tech challenges, really digging into the companies, and even just using the BOA, right? It was all, I think those are all challenges. I think capacity, I think the amount of people on the team to do the work. Government contracting is not an easy thing. It's high, administratively kind of burdensome. And I think that, all of those things are struggles. And I think we're still dealing with those struggles. There are organizations who have figured out really great ways. And so I was just talking with someone, and it's really amazing to me, all the RFIs that come out, and they're always asking, what is a better way to do acquisitions for agile software development, or any of the requirements they have. They always ask the question, how are your contracts done? What do you see as the best way to go about doing this acquisition? Can you see? Okay.
Yeah, you just for a second you're freezing a little bit, but I think you're coming back.
I'm back. I think I'm back now.
Yep.
You good?
Yep.
Okay, cool. What part did it get cut off?
No, we heard most of it. We heard most of it.
Okay, cool.
So I guess you were talking about, the people and the complexity, and people asking in RFIs and trying to see what industry is doing. I guess what do you think of the training that acquisition teams receive from the government standpoint? Do you think it's still lacking in basic understanding of agile?
So, I haven't been a contracting officer, so I just know by conversations and friends. I don't know if they focus on that, but I do know that there is a resistance to potentially risk and doing things, differently. I think overall training on acquisition should be for so many more people than just the PK office. I think there needs to be more intense training for, even your squadron commanders, your material leaders. And I know some of them are, but there are some that don't have that training. And I think all of that would really help if more levels actually got acquisitions training, and specifically agile technology training. I think would be, like, for example, I'm in ACSC right now, which is great. I need to understand nuclear studies, and I need to understand, cybersecurity and leadership. But I also think it's valuable to have maybe some classes on. I mean, this is out there, acquisitions and finance, just overall as leaders, so we can all talk the same talk. I think that's a breakdown as well, right? The language that people use to talk about the acquisition process.
So when you look at the people, a lot of people in the government and outside of the government in small businesses, how do you see the talent acquisition and also retention going, both in the DoD, and then also maybe you can answer the same question, but for the small businesses? Do you think it's tough right now to attract talent, and what about retention?
Wow. So I do believe that it's difficult, right? The talent acquisition process on the civilian side is challenging. It can take a long time. You could potentially have really great, motivated, folks, but it just takes too long to get them on board. We've heard all the discussions, the pay bands, how much people pay, and I think the changes in that and performance based and bonuses, and they're getting a little bit more creative on how they can pay people. I think they need to keep going in that direction. I've been asked a million times, well, why don't I go GS? Why don't I go GS? And I just know that from as the sole breadwinner, right? I can still support the government in things that I care about, and make more money to provide for my family. So that's, I think that, and even so, DoD struggles with that piece of it, right? Having enough positions to do the job well, and if they can't fill the spots, people getting burnt out. I think that's a real problem as well. And I like the performance based, right? I think that there's an old school mentality, government work, and I think that's sad because there's some really amazing, government people working hard, changing, disrupting, and dedicated people, and but to have, kind of that thought of, oh, it's government work, right? If we really need to shift that culture, I think, and I think changing how we pay and how we hire could definitely help that. And then for small contractors, there's not enough of the talent right now to fill all the requirements. There are so, our world is DevSecOps and cloud modernization, and so it's challenging to attract the talent. The pool is much smaller than the need, and that will change in a few years, right? As we grow and people do training like in the nick of time and get excited about the technologies that we're trying to implement in the DoD and federal space. But also too, like as a small business, how the benefits, there's a lot of choices out there, and there's a lot of companies that are coming up with unique, ways to keep their employees, excited about working there. So it's a challenge, but I think at Vivsoft, we're doing a really good job, really focusing on, how do we bring in people? How do we get them excited? And also even things like, how do we interview? How is their onboarding experience? All of those things really matter, and it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of focus. And if you don't get those things right, you're just going to have a really hard time maintaining and meeting the needs and the demands of the DoD.
And do you feel like as a small business, you're also competing against the big guys, the not only the big primes, but also the Amazon, Google, Microsoft, particularly for, I guess, technical talent. Has it been a challenge when you talk to people to convince them to bet on a smaller company?
Actually, no. In my personal, discussions with them, I see the vision for how being in a small business, right, could be attractive. We get a lot of people that work for the bigs, and they're excited about coming to a small company and being able to make an impact, right? Their name is going to be known, or they're going to be counted on. So I don't necessarily see that as a struggle. It's all about how do you present it? How do you care for your people? What are the paths that you're going to put them on? And they do bring some great expertise because they've been working with the bigs. And then, of course, with the layoffs and all of the things that are happening in the marketplace right now, I think it's going to be easier to get that talent that's working in those bigger companies. So it's really about just being creative,
Right,
getting
thinking
people
outside the
excited.
box. Yeah, yeah. Interesting. It's also interesting because obviously the big companies um, have the tough time to retain talent, and they're fighting among each other too, right? You've seen employees move from the Amazon to Microsoft to Google and back and forth, and it's a pretty toxic thing, and they're playing a game of chicken to raise the salary, and I'm not sure that's going to stick forever. But small business, obviously, how do you feel about the capacity of investing and kind of paying people sometimes pretty crazy asking of salary and compensations? Do you just I guess filter the noise and focus on what's reasonable, or has it been a problem to bring people from the big technical companies?
So yeah, I wouldn't say difficult. I think there are some people who come in and they've been making these, large salaries, but they're looking for a change, and right, and it's finding that balance. I wouldn't say that it holds us back that much, and most of the time, people do, they're going to try to ask for a crazy salary, but then we talk through it, right? Let's talk about what does that mean. What can we do now and what can we do in the future, right? And then also
Right.
then holds them to some type of performance, right? Like, and performance bonuses as well. So I don't think it's all in how you talk about it. Of course, there are people who want, come in and want 300, $400,000, and I'm sorry, we're a small business, right?
Right. Yeah, and it's also important to have a room for growth, right? Because if you go right away to the maximum of the pay range, it's gonna be pretty frustrating for the employee, right? They're gonna feel like they're stuck for years. It's probably not healthy. So that's good that there's not only bonus incentives but also room for growth. So I guess
Yeah.
when you look at the small business scaling, Vivsoft has been growing very rapidly. Unlike many companies, I guess it's a pretty fast growth compared to most companies in the world that are not raising a bunch of money and just wasting investor capital. In this case, it's growth that's driven by contract, which is that's another piece of the big difference, right, between small businesses on the tech side in the Silicon Valley kumbaya bubble that's going to implode, by the way, and the federal market that's going to be there regardless of inflation, recession, and more importantly, is driven by sales and by contracts instead of just raising monies on money on a napkin, right? So when you look at the scale, right, what's the biggest pain of scaling a small business in this DoD market? And is it more like training the new team? Is it the culture, making sure they integrate into the company? Is it also about the leadership, and how do you build a strong room for growth also of support and HR and all the stuff that you need to do to have a company, I guess? What's the most difficult piece there?
Wow, that's a tough question. Um, Typical piece in the beginning, right? When you have that initial growth and you get a contractor to is the hiring, right? Is the support. You usually have a really small team, so that team wears multiple hats. So I feel like keeping the synergy, keeping people motivated. This is the growing pains, right? And then we will scale our team and get a team to help support the process. I think that is like the hardest part. You win a government contract, and you have to deliver, right? So you may have delivered on a smaller scale, and now you have to take that next step. Let's say it's 25 people. Man, that's the
Wow.
hardest part. But once you've done it once or twice, right? Then you have the process, you have the people are excited, and then those pains go away. And other issues in the DoD market is, how do you get in? How do you win those contracts? You have to be so smart on who you talk to, who are you going to team with, do you understand the organization. You really have to understand the organizations that you're targeting, right? And that takes time. That takes a lot of time. And I think that's just where to stay, like what lane are you going to be in, where are you going to focus, and just be really good at that thing and not trying to do everything. I think that's
Right. Have a focus, and I think it's also interesting how many RFPs the government is really not providing any kind of point of contact in terms of the management, the technical vision. I think what we've done pretty well with P1, for example, was how accessible my team and myself made ourselves to be to every company, really. Taking meetings, engaging with industry, doing events, right? Most of the time I see bids, DevSecOps bids from the government, and I don't know even who is behind the engagement. It's a very dark, black box, right? And it's pretty tough to adjust and to understand what the vision is if you can't even I remember we were doing this Ask Me Anything calls. We had so many people join the calls, with P1, Cody, Victoria, myself, and Austin and Rob, answering questions live. That most people don't do that, right? And that's a big mistake. I think the government is often so scared, honestly, to engage with industry. It's always funny to me how people were completely frozen, anytime there would even be a protest. In fact, I talk to companies during protests and often solve the problem just by having a basic dialogue. But people are so afraid of everything. And do you see that as a a problem? Also, you see all these RFIs, so you're going to spend a lot of time. It's not even an RFP, so you're spending a lot of time answering questions. You don't even know if it's going to turn into any kind of revenue, and you don't really have, other than the contracting officer, you don't really have any insight as far as who you're even talking to. It's like talking to this big government shadow, right?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly, Nick. That's what I mean. Like it takes time to dig, right? You gotta to find out who's the end user, who is this requirement really for. It's not for the contracting officer, and you can email them all day, and they may or may not get back to you. Okay.
Right. Right.
We get excited, right, when they respond. They're like, yeah, they responded, right? Okay. We're really just trying to meet with your team and understand, what your pain points are and how can we help you and how we can support you. But yeah, I agree. There are some organizations that, the Ask Me Anythings, I think, is fantastic. I know people do industry days, but actually having some other POCs that people could talk to on those RFIs would be really helpful. It is sometimes
At the very least, if they're not afraid of, I mean, if they're afraid of giving some type of favor, right, to one side or the other, the answer might be the Ask Me Anything, right? Because anyone can come and ask questions. You take as many as you can. I think it's pretty fair for everybody. Everybody can listen to it, get the recording of it, and even start with a pitch, right, of from the government standpoint of giving a little bit of insight as far as what they're trying to achieve and what the use case is. Because you read the RFPs, honestly, it's not giving you enough background and honestly, they're checking all the boxes when it comes to buzzwords, right? But when it comes to tangible vision, it's often pretty unclear, and so I find it to be pretty difficult to be able to even advise. Some of them reach out to me asking for, hey, how did you do it? And that's what I push, right? I remind people that, hey, we need a little bit more transparency, be more accessible. People spend a lot of time answering these. I think overall the government doesn't realize how much small businesses end up spending of time and money in engaging with the government, right? And I think that's a big
I
problem.
agree.
So
I,
so
I
I guess what did we
100%
miss on
agree.
the scale piece? What did we not talk about that's also difficult other than what we just talked about, I guess?
Oh gosh. Um, to
We
your
talked
point
about
of,
talent a little bit.
yeah, what else haven't we talked about?
Yeah.
I think in this day and age, right, like your branding, how are you talking about your company? I think also comes into play in the world that we live in too, which can be a challenge if you don't necessarily, get that right. But to your point, the amount of time that small companies invest in RFPs and RFIs, I don't really know if, I mean, some people get it, but not everybody gets it. I mean, it is a dedicated, intentional, time consuming process, right? And you know, it's potentially could be wasting your time, right? You're spending all these hours and then nothing comes of it. But I will say that I do like what the government is doing in regards to tech challenges and oral presentations. I'm seeing that a lot more. The tech challenges, I think, is a super smart way to go, because if you're a company that actually knows how to do and help solve their problem, you're not going to shy away from those things. You're going to get to actually prove yourself and prove your talent. And, if you can't do it, if you mess up right then and there, it's real time response. And I think that that is really powerful, because let's say you mess up the challenge, you get to go back with your team, talk about what you can do better, build a better solution, and then do better the next time around. And it's like that immediate feedback. And I think that that is definitely something that I'm seeing that I really, really like. And I think is powerful for small companies, because you get to then have that face to face, and you're not just, in line trying to get a meeting. Use your connections, you use your network, and hey, can you send an email, or hey, can you set up a meeting? If you're a small business and you don't have that off the bat, that's how do you break in? It's hard, but I think the tech challenge is an awesome way to
Yeah,
go.
the whole ecosystem is designed as a self vacuum bubble, so it's kind of on purpose, But I remember when I pushed interviews, people freaked out. People told me you can't talk to people bidding. That's not an option. I remember also when we got the first written proposals back, I graded them, in order of quality, I guess. And my top 10 out of what was it? I forgot if it's 150 or 250, but a lot. My top 10 ended up not even making the cut of my top 10 after interviews, because people in writing, they can give you whatever you want to hear, right? And it's different people writing the stuff and the people that show up for the interview. And we had the key value, key role, whatever the term is, to ensure that the companies wouldn't be swapping talent right under our noses. And they had to do another interview if they were to replace some of these people, KLP or whatever the name is. So that interview process was always very interesting. I think the companies learned a lot. In fact, funny enough, Vivsoft, one was the company I interviewed for the first round, and you did not make the cut because you were too small. And we gave a lot of feedback, I think, to the leadership, and they came back to tell me years later that the feedback they got was actually what drove them to improve all these things and get to where they are now, right? So, like you said, both the tech challenges, but also the kind of the interviews, right, and these kind of engagements ended
Yep,
up giving a lot of insights, right?
for sure. Like the oral presentations, right? That was all part of the P1. Anybody can potentially write a proposal, right? But do you actually have the smarts in the room that can solve the problem? The whole bait and switch, right? And so I think that the government's definitely starting, especially on the tech side, not everyone, but really trying to, they understand that problem. and understand that these technologies, there's not everybody can do it, right? You can't, not everybody can do everything. It's not, it's not real. But yeah, that feedback, that that's another thing too. I would say it is important when we go to these challenges or presentations and or RFPs, when we ask for feedback, that we actually get quality feedback, and from the technical side, not just from the contracting shop. That's really valuable for small businesses, because sometimes we're like, what did we do wrong? Like, like you just said, for Vivsoft, we got direct feedback. You sucked here, or you didn't do this well, or you need to work on this. Cool. That helps small businesses, but sometimes that's also a black hole. We don't get the feedback that's necessary, and I think that has a lot to do with time. People don't have time, but I think that's absolutely necessary for you guys, to give that feedback. Not you guys, but the government to give that feedback.
Yeah, the government. I mean, it should be mandated, because companies spend a lot of time and the government is not providing any kind of feedback. And often, by the way, I think it's mostly because of the fear of protest, right? So they're afraid of saying something wrong that would then be used by the companies to go and protest and complain that they were not picked. I was giving unlimited feedback, and I don't know, maybe people were too scared to protest, but we actually had, even though we had one or two protests, just talking to these guys, they withdrew their protest, by the way. So we never got delayed whatsoever. Every time I talked to people, we solved it. I think that never happened in history of DoD, by the way. People on the leadership side talking to the companies protesting, just to get, understand why they're protesting. And I wasn't trying to convince them, by the way, to stop their protest. I was just trying to give them insight as far as what went wrong on our side, and understand what they were complaining about. And when we started to talk, they realized that, hey, this is not what they thought. They actually messed up, or they didn't have enough talent in some different fields, and they didn't answer the question right. And, then they're like, okay, that's a valid point, and they realized also they could partner, right, with others, and there's such a small talent pool that effectively, even if they were not to be a prime the first round, we're going to do other onboarding, and there's always room for competition, right? The key is not to be stuck in time. That's why I hate all these single award contracts, right? With a big prime or one company. I think it's a very toxic way to do business. Doesn't give room for competition and diversity. So
I agree. Yep.
So, obviously as a small business, a lot of companies, right, are using SBIRs and then, STRATFIs to get into different contracts and find, sometimes money that's sitting elsewhere from the program office. You guys obviously have a pretty strong set of engagements on the SBIR side and STRATFI. What do you see all the, the challenges having, worked with AppWorks and all these guys and Level Up and Platform One? What do you see there that is going well, and also maybe things that could be improved?
Yeah, so of course I had to start the story with my response with, right, through the SBIR program, Vivsoft, it helped us grow. It allowed us to co-create an amazing product and build, hence ML right here, through the SBIR program. And actually we were awarded other SBIRs, right, creating other products, and build and chalk, really powerful tools. And so the SBIR program definitely has a place. It definitely can be powerful, but you got to break in. You got to find the organization. You got to get to the people who are going to say yes. That takes time. What if you don't understand who to talk to or how to talk to them? And it's kind of you submit. I don't know if this cohort, but the cohort before, I think like 1,200 SBIRs were submitted. I mean, it's like a roll of the dice, and that's a lot of time.
It's not as bad as betting, but it's pretty good.
Not as bad as what?
As betting, or the winning the lottery, but it's
yeah. Oh yeah, your odds are definitely better in the SBIR challenge. So the challenges are, I think, those we had great support at Platform One, and people who said yes to us as a small business. We delivered, and we were passionate about it, and so we've made it. We have we moved on to the phase 3. We made it through the valley, the shadow of death, right? We like to say a lot of companies don't do that, but it's just bandwidth, right? Even TPOC support. These companies, we get these SBIRs, we don't have TPOCs that can help actually have the time to talk with them, to focus on the technology. Sometimes the organizations aren't even aware that this SBIR work is going on, and that's the facts. And Submitting SBIRs can be a pain, but once you learn the system and learn the nuances of the actual system to submit SBIRs, that's actually okay. But then what's the rhyme or reason? Who is selected? There doesn't seem to be a set way. We've won quite a few, but not awarded, right? And that happened to a lot of other companies in our ecosystem that we've talked to. And so then you get a little bit discouraged, right? So what is the point? You're awarded a contract, but you don't get funded. So you're moving on to the next thing. But it could be a great path for organizations to get to the tech, have their pitch days, put in for these are the solutions that we want so it can get into the cohort so people can apply for them. There is a place for it, and it can be a really powerful program for the SBIR piece. On the STRATFI, I have some real feelings about the STRATFI TACFI process, but overall, the efforts team is supportive. Okay, I'm just going to say that. But the system to submit, for example, the STRATFI and the instructions for the STRATFI are very confusing. If you're a brand new DoD small company and you've never dealt with SBIR, I don't know how you can't do it without help. I just don't.
There's no way.
It's just confusing. You don't understand it. You have to have such buy-in from the leadership and the organization, that you're working with. And if you don't already have that relationship, I think it's very challenging because that's additional work for them, right? To sign the papers and to work on milestones. And this is my last plug.
But at the same time, STRATFI, it kind of makes sense that you have some good sponsor because it's, I guess at some point you need to also show that you have someone that's interested and is not working a vacuum. So, I guess it's,
that's true.
It's what it is. But
yeah, I totally agree on that. But the system that you have, the logistics
system is messed up. Yeah.
What?
The system is messed up for sure. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's kind of I struggle with the fact that I'm submitting this great solution for technology and advancing like AI ML models and DevSecOps, and yet I'm entering it into this system that is not user friendly, that will time out on you, and you have to keep redoing it over and over again until you get it done in the right amount of time. That's the part that I'm like, I know they're working on.
They want to keep you on your toes. They want to keep you on your toes.
Oh my gosh, stress. That's stressful.
Yeah. The old school UI and old school website, and you're pushing digital innovation. Maybe the first step would be to redo the website. I don't know.
Exactly.
That could be some innovation.
I agree.
But you ended up walking through the STRATFI, right? So, what have you learned? Did it end up being worth it? I guess.
Did it end up being what?
Worth it.
I hope so. I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
I think.
Well, that's already good enough, right?
Yes.
I guess.
More to come when we find out the final answer. We'll let you know then. Yeah, but overall, we're still thankful, and because we actually were able to submit and met all the requirements for a STRATFI, which is really powerful, and the work that we did through the SBIRs and taking that into other organizations, right? That's powerful. And then because even just the requirements to submit a STRATFI, you have to meet some pretty high gates that not all 8As are capable of saying that they've done. And so, we're really proud of that and supportive of the SBIR program. But I'm going to say, get a buddy, get a company that will support you and help you. There are companies who you can hire, as consultants. And I think, your first round, that potentially is helpful. After that, you can you get the swing of it.
Yeah, there are many companies that help. Right, people also do SBIRs, SBIR advisors, loan capture, the outpost. So,
yeah.
Right, many companies that do that. So, so I guess when you got started, obviously, I guess what got you to focus on DevSecOps was initially, I guess, your engagement with Platform One. But how did you realize that you really had to understand the tech? I guess because you could have. Maybe not get as deep as you did, but what made you really focus on DevSecOps?
Well, I like to say I didn't find DevSecOps. DevSecOps found me, okay? Because I didn't really know anything about it. But I can relate to security, right? I can relate to security at every level. That makes sense to me, especially, being in the military and knowing what I get in my briefings and understanding, the dangers that are out there, right? For our infrastructure and our space systems and our weapon systems. And so, I just gravitated onto that vision, and the people that are around me, were so passionate about it and fired up. And in every meeting, I was like, yes, this is all right. We got to do this. And so that's how and it affects every part of our lives. DevSecOps ultimately should be a part of every system, everything that we touch, right? Our banking systems, our healthcare systems, everything that we touch. So you kind of have to understand what it's about, because it impacts you, and it could impact you in a negative way, right? If it's not being done.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue most organizations today that don't do it don't have a very good lifespan hope of surviving the financial crisis. That's for sure. So,
Yep,
um,
exactly.
looking at obviously the technical aspect of this, we talk about it a little bit, but I like to follow up a little bit on the how do you actually yourself, right, keep up and stay up and on the tech stuff, right?
So I read, I listen
Read,
to my engineers talk every day,
read.
and
Yep,
I
yep.
ask questions. I Being in the ecosystem, right? Being on LinkedIn, shared stories, talking with other people. That's definitely. I need to finish watching all my Learn with Nick videos. I have listened to the DevSecOps and ML Ops one, right? So
Yep.
there we go. And cybersecurity. So I'm on
There's
it.
there's room for progress. I'm looking at your stats right there, so I have full access on your data. So they,
I mean,
1 hour a day, 1 hour a day.
I
Well,
try.
let's do one video a day. That's 7 minutes. That's
So
seven
I've
minutes.
decided I need to start doing it while I'm like brushing my teeth, because I told you I struggle right now because I'm an ACSC, right? So anytime I'm not doing growing a
Yeah,
small
that's
business,
tough.
being a mom, I'm working on ACSC, which to anyone out there who's working on that, feel your
That's
pain.
tough. Yeah, that's a lot. I guess I'm gonna become your teeth buddy. So
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah. Well, I'll get to
Gonna do that.
know everything while I'm brushing my teeth. I mean, Nick, come on. I joined GatherTown and participated and went on go-kart rides. I put on a spacesuit. I mean, those are things that I
You're
never,
all in.
I'm all in. I never in a million years, even when you first started talking about it, I was like, what is the metaverse? But here I am. I even did meetings. I talked to people. So
What did you
it's,
think of
it's,
it?
oh my gosh, it was so fun. I couldn't be in there as long as I wanted to be, but it was so great. I got to make some, have some chats really quick with people. Like, I met with Sam and Kyle and had some really good talks, and had a good talk in the DU booth. Our booth was pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. I was pretty proud of our fun booth with that top of speed built out. So that was exciting. And I thought it was really a fun, I wished more people would have been in there, but the people that were in there, it was valuable. I really think I'm on board with it.
It's I think it's gonna be interesting, right? I think the issue I have is people start watching stuff and then they give up, right? And so I'm still struggling and because we don't do notifications and I don't want to spam people and stuff, but I wonder if it's not important, right? Because I do the same stuff every time I commit to doing something. I was starting to run, and then I gave up after a week. I got sick, and then I'm like, I can't run, I can't breathe. I'm not gonna run, and then like, oh, I have to go back at it. I think it's kind of what people face, right? Is I guess for me, tech is such a passion. I always watch videos. I probably watch at least an hour and a half, a day of videos. CNCF stuff and other companies um, but it's tough, right? People, I guess, start and then they stop, and some, if anyone, by the way, here has ideas on how to make sure people stay at it, because People watch my new videos, but they have a tough time also catching up on the 62 or whatever videos we have. And they often ask questions that we already answer that they just don't know that we already have it, So it's just like it's interesting. And we're gonna do a cyber offense class. It's gonna be fun. I'm helping a bunch of kids, 12 to 18. I bet they would win over you guys anyways because they're pretty small kids.
That's
So we're gonna
awesome.
do a cyber offense class. It's gonna be fun, So
I
with
love that.
actually, red team and blue team and actual cloud sandbox, and we're gonna actually do the stuff, not just watching freaking videos, actually doing the stuff. I think it's gonna be pretty fun. So
I should be a part of that. I should go in with the kids and learn it, Nick.
I know they're very cool, and those guys are really trying, and the school is struggling, right, with the learning. They don't have a teacher for anything tech related, so they reached out to me and they're like, "Hey, what can we do?" So we gave them access to learn with Nick for free. We're showing them a little bit what it takes to be an entrepreneur. I met those kids, 13-year-old kid, started selling stuff on Amazon, from Alibaba, and trying to find what sticks and what works. And it's just, and now he got to 14 grand, and now, Amazon is asking for an ID, and he can't, his dad doesn't want to let him do it because he's only 13 years old, and it's just like, reminds me of, it reminds me of me, so
Hmm.
it's just interesting.
I
So
love
I
that you're
guess,
doing that. I love that you're doing that. I wish, I feel like I don't do a good job, and it's actually more pressure the last 2 years. I'm like, oh my gosh, my kids, I need my kids to learn about tech. And I have my three youngest are girls, right? What do I do? How do I get them involved? There's no programs
right,
like that at school. There is STEM, right? But not specifically, cybersecurity, tech,
cyber, yeah,
more
yeah,
engineering, type things. And so I bought my daughter, don't laugh, the Osmo, because you can start to teach them coding right with
yeah,
Osmo on the
sure,
iPad.
why
So
not?
I'm trying to find ways because inherently that's not how I was brought up. So I don't have any, experiences of what
Yeah.
did I do. So I love that you're doing that. I wish more schools would have that type of curriculum. I think it's so necessary. I love it.
The other piece is the curriculum we do find at schools are so obsolete. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I've seen, teachers teach kid, Ada, which is a legacy language that no one is using anymore. It's just like the guy is so stuck in time, 25 years. It's
Hmm.
scary, right? It's actually negative value almost. I mean, it's just
Hmm.
and so that's the other piece, right? Is you don't know what you don't know, right? So how do we make it? And that's the issue, right? Even when I make it like on the platter, right here, take it and run. People don't take the time. They would rather watch TikTok videos. I was surprised actually. I asked the kids how many have TikTok. I would say maybe 15% of the kids raised their hands. Maybe they lied. Maybe I don't think they lied, but because they didn't know that I didn't like it. So it's only 15. So it's pretty good, but I'm sure they spend time on other stuff, right? The question is, I
Video
told them,
games.
like, where do you spend your time, right? The time is limited, right? And you always say you don't have enough time until you realize you do, so just stop wasting it, So yeah,
Well,
and
the
I
12
guess
and
Jennifer
13
is
year
here.
olds might not get that, but you could try. But I think having it introduced to them is the important thing, right? They don't right, like you said, they don't know what they don't know. So actually having that information given to them in class, going online, getting hands on keyboard is where it's at. You've said this many times too in the curriculum space, even in colleges, right? It's so hard to change the curriculum because it's such a process that you can't update it. So it's years and years old. And as we know, the technology and the best solutions, right? It's changing at such a pace, and the curriculum at the colleges can't keep up. I'm sure, even this program potentially schools would have problems, keeping up with it. But um, I like what you're doing, and I think that's definitely keep going with that passion. I like it.
And it's, I
Bring it to
guess,
Texas.
Jennifer, what's that?
I said, bring it to Texas.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
Jennifer is here, and she was mentioning Osmo, but she also mentioned, for people that don't know, Bitsbox, which is a coding box that you get,
oh,
for kids. There are subscriptions too, right? You get a box a month, and you get different things. I got one that's for my kid that's both electronics and coding, which is a little too much for a 4-year-old.
Yeah,
But I liked it. I liked it more than her, I think, but that's okay.
that's through
I think she's
Bitsbox or
yeah.
something
So that's when
different.
it's Bits box, and my electronic box. I forgot the name of it. It was
Okay.
an ad, but I'll find it and send it to the group. But
Okay.
it's pretty good, but it's pretty hard. I mean, it's. I mean, you start with actually doing electronic stuff in a circuit and soldering and stuff, and then you have to do the software piece to make it do something. So it's I wasn't expecting I guess on the video they don't show you the software stuff too much. So I guess doing the soldering for her and helping her, that was easy, and she liked looking at the stuff. But then when you look at code, I mean, she doesn't even write. So it's probably
Yeah.
too early for that. You know,
Maybe Osmo. You could start with Osmo for her.
Osmo. Yeah, Osmo is a better fit, no doubt. And yeah, ban TikTok. Here we go. And Erica was saying here that since she took a break from TikTok, her attention span has improved. China actually did a study, and they realized that actually the swipe up, short attention span videos from TikTok is creating a rush of dopamine in the brain, and it's as um, bad as heroin, and it's hard drugs. And so they, of course, in China, it's limited to an hour a day for kids under 14 and banned at night. And of course, we don't do that to our kids, and that's not good. So do
Oh, well,
that, ban it.
I control my kids' time on apps, and you would think that I was like the worst parent of all time. Like, it's just such a painful thing. Oh my gosh. But hey,
That's
it's a
okay.
new
You have
world,
to be
and
the bad guy
parenting.
too.
Yeah, I mean, gonna be the bad guy, I
It's
guess.
it's interesting how if everybody likes you, you're not doing enough. So that's what I said last time on LinkedIn. Same thing
That's
for your
true.
kid. If they just like you too much, there's a problem.
That's
So.
true.
Because they
That's true.
forget anyway. They like you anyway, so it's just a scam.
Sometimes.
So let's talk about, you brought it up, right, as I guess, guardsman, although you're a woman, but whatever. That's one of the words. I don't know if it's translated into gender yet. I'm sure it's going to come. Um, so how do you deal with both? And first, tell us, you mentioned, that was one of the best moves you made. Tell us why, and tell us how you manage not only, I guess, it's not both lives, because it's not just your life at Vivsoft and your life as a guardsman, but also as a mom.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot happening. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I just being a guardsman, I think, is such a powerful career path, especially for those that want to serve. It the reason I say it was the best choice. I was active duty for. I'm sorry, I said 15 years. I was enlisted 15 years, but I was active duty for about 11 and a half years. And I just think that the guardsmen are dedicated people, especially the world that we live in now, right? The last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, especially like Texas guardsmen, we are called on often. You are called on, and you're getting to do cool things, right? You're not just stuck like on active duty. You're doing your very specific job. You're on your very specific UTC. You might get to do like a stint as an exec or different things. But you have a path. A guardsman, you potentially could do many different things. You're called on for emergency, for hurricane. We have the border right now. We have COVID, and we were all over Texas, providing support, and we're protecting the border. And I worked for the DEA while I was in the Guard. So go figure that, for
Nice.
3 months. It was the most ridiculous thing. And I realized, yeah, this life is not for me. But we have a lot of guardsmen who are running the full counter drug program. There's just, and the people are very passionate. They're dedicated, especially like traditional. I'm a traditional guardsman. They're coming from all aspects of life. So think about that. In a Guard medical group, you have somebody who, there's so many enlisted who have master's degrees, PhDs, they own businesses, they're executives. The tools and the insight and the perspective that you get, especially when dealing with a problem, I think is just so powerful, because you have so many people coming from different aspects that can look at a problem and go, well, why don't we do it this way? And as a guardsman, funding's a little bit different. You kind of have to do a lot with a little. but just the passion to serve, because you're called at a minute, you're called a hurricane, boom, you're activated, 5 days, um, 5 to 10. Well, COVID started as like a 60-day orders. We need you to come and support, and turned out to, 2.5, 3 years for some people. And it's just a really great way to serve, to grow a career, to stay connected to the DoD, to stay connected to your country. And I'm just blessed with
What happened? What happened when you activated for a longer period of time, both with your company and I guess your time as a mom?
So I've been really, really lucky to work for small companies that support the military, and Vivsoft is the same. I went out on 2 weeks of training, innovative readiness training, to Hawaii. Yeah, hard stint. And Vivsoft supported me in those efforts. I've had to go away for training. They support me, and that really is helpful. There are a lot of people that don't deal with supportive companies. So you have companies, you might have your military leave, but then you have your military leave. You can use your personal leave. You can have leave without pay. You are protected by laws, so your company has to, give you your job back. They have to, give you the same pay that you had, and any promotions that you were eligible for, you still should be eligible for them. But the dedication, like support from Vivsoft, is really instrumental for me to continue to my career. Like I said, I'm doing ACSC, hoping to get promoted to lieutenant colonel next year, right? Which then entails, other schools and other TDYs, and the support from small businesses for our guardsmen has been really powerful for me and allowed me to have a good career.
It's tough, right? Because for a small business, obviously they have a limited set of people. You have a pretty significant role. Leaving, regardless on how people feel about serving, and I support it obviously, but I can imagine as an entrepreneur myself, I would have. It's not easy, right? Because you're putting the business at risk a little bit, because you're depending on key people, and now they're gone for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. That put a massive strain on the business. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, so we talked about that at the beginning, and just because of the type of person I am, I usually still work business things, right, in the evenings, on the weekends, when I can. I don't completely stop. So I've been allowed to have that flexibility, and I did that at my other company too. Anytime I was TDY, I did SOS, took my daughter, still was a program manager in the evenings, did all of my work, and did SOS. So I'm not saying everybody should do that or that's what everybody does, but I think it's just really important to talk about it. What is the plan? Let's be realistic. And that's a really benefit for me, is other guardsmen that are in the organization, I can help them. I can support them. I can say, yeah, that's probably a real thing. They probably just got notified 2 weeks ago. But also, how do we manage that? What do we do? What's the best way to manage those situations? Because it does come up, and you are right. But
how do you deal with your kids, I guess?
Family. I couldn't do it without my family. I have no family in San Antonio, so I usually, have family fly in, grandmas, grandpas. I have older children. My son used to help me out a lot. My daughter is 19. My son's 24. Active duty Space Force. Okay, I have to just throw that in there, of course. I'm so proud of him. And so family. That's the only way it works. Like I said, I want to.
I mean, it's easier now than if they were babies. Obviously, that would be pretty tough, right?
Oh yeah, it is. It's challenging. I've been doing it for a really long time, figuring it out. Literally, that's what I do. I figure it out. And so now it's just kind of ingrained in me to figure it out.
They don't need you as much now, I guess. Soon enough, they're not going to care. Soon enough, they're not going to care. They don't need you as much. They're getting too old, those kids.
Oh, well, yeah, the teenagers are probably glad when I leave, but I still have my 6-year-old. She always misses me. She misses me. She supports me.
6 is tough.
Yeah.
6 is tough.
She supports. They love to see me in my uniform and doing the military thing. So I'm lucky. I have awesome kids.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that's quite a balance between the three. Most mom already struggle with 2, let alone 3. So people say you're a badass. I kind of agree with that. So I'm gonna bring it up.
I have 4 kids, not 3.
I have 4 kids.
Let's get it right.
Yeah, 4 kids. 4 kids. Yeah. No, I said 3 three jobs, three guardsman, Vivsoft and family. That's what I meant by three.
Yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot, and that's why it's super important for me to work with a company and people who are fun and great to work with, because I spend a lot of time supporting them.
It's already painful enough without it. So
Yeah,
so I guess
exactly.
let's talk a little. I keep reflecting on what I could do to improve it, but I don't really think of gender when I talk to people. But the fact is, we have genders, and apparently we have 81 of them now, according to schools. But I certainly don't have enough women on the show, and it's not for lack of trying. It's just what it is. I guess I don't get. I don't know. There's not enough of you. In the industry. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I probably had 5 out of I don't know 60, 70. Not enough. Not that I particularly want to have more women for the heck of having women. I just want to be have everybody. But so I guess people are calling me woke already. So how is it, I guess, being a woman in this crazy both on the first, let's talk about military first, and then we'll talk about tech.
Man, it's a conversation. So yeah, military, right? Not a lot of women leaders. I will say in the medical career field, you see more women,
Right, yeah,
right?
there's more. Yeah.
Officers, just because of the role, but still in regards to commanders and squadron commanders. I was full-time guard for 3 years and as a lieutenant, and was the full-time commander during the week because the commander was a DSG, and let's just say sometimes the only woman, all males at the table, and it was very kind of scary at first, but it's definitely there. It's just definitely something to be aware of. It's definitely something that people should be able to talk about and share their concerns. Like you said, sometimes, especially for the leadership positions, there's not the applicants. Women don't apply, or women have a tendency maybe to say, like, I'm not qualified, I can't do it, right? So that holds them back. I've been on plenty of boards, and it's all men. I mean, what are you going to do if the women don't apply? So I think it's just continuing to have the conversations, to be aware that there are some cultural mindsets. I think in the Guard, maybe a little different, because you're not, in some aspects, because it's a family, people work in the same units for years and years and years, so they actually know the women, and they want to see them grow and do good things. But still, even like, think about, we're a fighter wing pilots, males, and they end up being the commander. So it is still pretty a male dominated system from my experience, but I'm definitely trying to break through and continue to grow and be a leader.
Do you think about it when you enter a meeting? Is that something you think about? Oh, I'm the only woman every time you go into a meeting, or you don't think about it anymore?
I don't think about that on the military side as much. I do think about it. These tech meetings, I mean, I can go weeks and weeks and weeks and be many times, 90% of the time, the only woman in the room. And my psychology about it is just remembering that I belong here, right? I have something to say, and just, keeping a positive mindset. I do think about it because it is a conversation. Why, I've only interviewed in the last year 2 women, but just because we haven't had the applicants, right? And why is that? Why are women only, 19% of STEM is women? Why do women leave the tech field? Why are these things happening, and what can we do to encourage it? Women to get into tech and to create those environments. They're in a world that's mostly males, and there can be maybe some toxic environment situations, right? And so then they leave. So then what? How do you fix it? You don't want to just purposely push, okay, let's make sure we put women, maybe even if they're not qualified, so that it's a more balanced. I think it's more about actually being able to talk about that situation in the workplace and just being aware of it, right?
Yeah, no doubt, no
Because
doubt. It's scary.
women, I just don't know. It's just even the sciences overall, right? Why are women not here in tech? But I know that there are some companies, focusing on that STEM. That's why I was saying, for that your STEM classes, make sure we're promoting to girls as well, right? So they can.
Yeah, there was a lot of girls, a lot of girls.
That's awesome. I think culturally too, Nick. In our world, we have a lot of Disney and girls should do this and girls play with these things and this is the path, an appropriate path for girls. I think that I think that plays into it as well. I mean, the word STEM was never said to me. Tech was never said to me ever. My whole, ever in my growing up. So.
Right. Who do you blame the education? Who do you blame, the education system? You think failed, or who failed?
I don't know. I really I don't know, because I think maybe I don't know if it's the education system, because when kids go, I don't know if when they go and meet with their counselors and they go and meet with the colleges, are they steered towards a certain degree? Are they saying, hey, well, we recommend that you do this path or do this career? Maybe they're never exposed to it. I don't know what the answer is, to be honest. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. And what about in tech versus military? Which one is the most, I guess, prevalent?
So that's going to be hard for me to answer, only because I've been a lot medical, right? And there's a lot of women medical and women officers in medical. I would say, I would say even outside of tech, I'm going to talk small business or business in general, right? 99% of the time, CEOs, VPs, directors, the people that you're meeting are men.
Yeah.
Indian men. Indian men. Which I don't know if it's the mindset, of a CEO, maybe, I don't know. More, maybe it's kind of, you have to have a certain kind of mindset and a little bit more aggressive, and maybe that's not the natural, state maybe of a woman's mindset, but it doesn't mean that they can't be a CEO, right?
Yeah.
They're just going to have to kind of try to prove themselves, I guess, a little bit more. There are some great tech companies that have women CEOs, and I love it, but it's not the norm.
Yeah. Then they end up being overly mean when we see a few, unfortunately, because they have to fight back so much. I guess they feel like they have to be super mean. I get it. It makes sense. I'm super mean anyways, so.
So that's one thing I have vowed. I genuinely don't. My stepmom has been into energy. At one point, she was the only woman who was doing her job. She was buying and selling gas, right, in our state. And, so she's gone through this journey. She actually found out some really, pay differences. She actually, sued because she found out she made significantly less than the men around her. Long story short, in the world that she lives in the energy business, it's very, as a woman, she's had to press forward and sometimes being really aggressive. And I don't like the fact that just for a woman to be successful, you have to be aggressive or you have to be mean or rude to get to the top. I don't know. I'm committed to being clear, right? Being candid, but staying true to who I am as a person, and, caring about people, caring about what we're trying to do, what we're trying to deliver, and, not change that.
That's important, no doubt. I guess my last question for you: what keeps you up at night?
Teams chat messages with my bosses.
That doesn't count.
Okay,
That's just they're waking you up. What actually prevents you from sleeping other than your phone beeping?
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, genuinely, I worry about, like, my kids, my family. Did I spend enough time with them today? Was I intentional with them today? Work stuff does keep me up because I'm really passionate and I want to stay true. Like if I said I was going to do something, did I do it? And did I do it well? But did I also take time for my kids? That's keeps me up at night.
The right balance. It's always tough.
Yeah.
You're never gonna know for sure, anyways, unless you spend the whole day with the kids, I guess. Then it's too much time and you want to die. So.
Well, I mean, my kids want to come back to my house, so I'm using that like as a gauge. My son
Yeah.
wants to come home and visit. My 19-year-old wants to, she's with me for Christmas break for the whole month, moved out of the dorm. So I'm kind of using that as a gauge. Okay,
Yeah.
at least like it here. But yeah, just
Yeah.
genuinely,
Usually they don't want to talk to you at that age. They usually never talk to you ever again for 3 or 4 years. So you're doing pretty good.
yeah.
What
That's
about the market? Do you think about the market, the recession, the inflation?
So I don't. I mean, I think about it, but I don't live in a space of fear all the time, right?
Right.
I know that we're a strong country. I know that we've been through hard times before, so I don't focus on that. I know that it's something to think about. I know that we should pay attention and we should make certain decisions to potentially protect ourselves. But I believe in us, as a country and as a nation, and I don't worry about that. I don't live in fear.
That's good. Yeah. Living in fear doesn't really help anyways. So.
Yep, yep.
All right. So obviously, every time we end the show, I give the last words to the guests. So be ready for that in a minute. Before that, I'm gonna remind everybody of the next guest. So I'm gonna check that out. Next Tuesday, December 20th, which will be the last episode of the year, because then there's Christmas, and I wasn't gonna bug you guys. We have a great guest again next week. The CEO of Rapid Fort will be on, Miran, and it's going to be a very interesting discussion on what he's been working on for the last few years. So he's going to come on next Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. So don't miss the last show of 2022 before we move to 2023 and have a lot of fun. And I will wish you all the happy holidays, even Merry Christmas, even if you don't do it, and happy holidays, and whatever else you do or don't do, I don't care. I will wish it to you anyways. And meanwhile, over to you, Kat, for the last words.
Oh, last words. Well, thanks for having me, Nick. Super fun. I was super nervous, right, to be on, but I definitely appreciate the time and being able to talk, right? There's a lot of work to be done, and I'm definitely, passionate about what we do at Vivsoft and, what we do for the DoD and in the federal space, and trying to keep us safe. And I appreciate the time and the ability to talk about some of these topics that I think really matter and need to be talked about. We won't know all the solutions, right? But we just, do our best each day trying to make change. And I appreciate to be in this ecosystem and love doing what we do.
Well, with that, I'm going to say, because you forgot, you're hiring. So check
Oh,
out vivstuff.io/careers. And
yep.
people can go check out the roles, reach out to you on LinkedIn. You're on LinkedIn. Everybody's pretty active on Vivsoft with the new Emma, the new little cute elephant. So
Yeah,
check
and if
it
you
out.
want a tattoo, we're handing out tattoos as well.
Life for
I know,
life. So,
I
you're
know Nick
committed.
wants
Yeah, I have one already. I won't tell you where. So
one.
with that, with that, I wanted to thank you, by the way, for your service and everything you do for the nation and for your family and your company. With that, I wanted to thank everybody for joining us. We'll see you next Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, you better keep the good fight, so we have a fighting chance, and our kids have a fighting chance at winning against China 20 years from now. Stay safe, everybody. See you next week. Bye bye.